Good morning. I'm supposed to have my fire cap hat on that I got from appreciate Nate Edler and the fire union getting my new fire cap. But I wanted to keep my. I've noticed every time we do one of these, I notice my thinning hair on top on my show. So, but anyways. Good morning. Hopefully we're ready for a good week. Should be a good week. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on last week and what we've got going on this week. Last week we sent out our proposed budget for 2020, which is approximately $245 million. Some of the highlights include no millage rate increase and a fund balance reserve of above 20% set by the minimum by the council, representing 23.43%. There's also a pay plan to address pay inequities. Clearly, that was one of the things that came through very loud and clear is that we hadn't been investing in our people, so we are looking to make a fairly sizable investment in our people. Also estimated $104.2 million in local option sales tax revenue to cover a variety of items, including Pensacola Police and Pensacola Fire vehicles, $3.9 million in upgrades and refurbishments to some of the city's parks, community centers, and facilities, and $1 million for public works to address citywide ADA, energy conservation, and energy improvements, as well as intersection and sidewalk improvements and the continuation of the pavement management program. The City Council budget workshops have been scheduled already for Wednesday, July 24th at 1 o'clock and Thursday, July 25th at 9 o'clock here at City Hall in Hagler Mason, and we hope to see you there next week. We are currently accepting board applications for the vacancy of the Downtown Improvement Board. Several people had put in before, were not selected. We have kept those, but we are looking for other applications if anybody else wants to apply as well. Those are due by Wednesday, July 24th at 5 p.m. So if you've already submitted the application, there's no need to reapply. You will still be considered with new applicants. To serve on the DIB, however, you must own property within the DIB district and be a lessee that pays taxes on the property. Certainly, it can be commercial or personal residential. Just in some way or another, you have to be connected to somehow paying taxes there. Details are on our website at cityofpensacola.com. I would also like to take a minute to congratulate the Bill Bond League 12 and under and the 11 and under baseball teams on winning the state championships, and wishing them the best of luck as they advance to the Southeast Regionals this week in Wilmington, North Carolina. Both teams beat out their opponents in the Cal Ripken Babe Ruth state tournaments, and the 11 and under team has already secured a spot in the Babe Ruth World Series August 3rd as a tournament host. So congratulations to our teams and the hard work they're doing. That really comes a lot from volunteers. Brian, you and your crew do a great job of keeping that facility up and running and looking good. They do a great job. We have some great volunteer coaches. They do a good job of getting out there, and it's glad to see them be successful. So we certainly want to congratulate them and support them. And lastly, believe it or not, school will be starting very shortly. City Parks and Recreation has several options for after-school fitness and sports, dance and drama, computers, and STEAM. After-school programs are available at Cobb, Fricker, Gull Point, and Woodland Heights Resource Centers. The new this year, the YMCA of Northwest Florida will offer an after-school program in the Vickery Center. More information and registration is available online at playpensacola.com. So that is, and then the last thing I'd like to say is just give a little shout out to certainly the nursing staff at the ICU at Sacred Heart. Appreciate the care they've given my mother-in-law this past week. She's now been moved out of ICU, so we're very happy about that, but she's still at Sacred. They're doing a good job, and certainly I appreciate Sierra and Dolly out there taking good care of her, and thank you for you guys doing that. And other than that, it's open for you guys. I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
One of the issues that's kind of come up over time in PPD with having officers, not having officers, is that they can't hire in advance of the retirees. You know, they know people are dropping, and they are not able to hire in advance and train to get people on the streets in order to make up those that are losing through a drop. Is there anything in the current budget to address that?
Well, one of the things in the current budget is addressing the the level that we were going to be staffing, and if we need to discuss with Tommy something to do in order to deal with any overlaps that may occur, that was not brought to my attention, but I'm more than happy to look at that what we can. And I did just want to say, I noticed you were the only one sitting in the front today, that everybody else has moved to the back. So I don't know what that means today, but
he's always in the front on the side.
he's always on the side. He is there. But no, we certainly can look at that as we evaluate what's going on. But that has not come to my attention. I mean, that was not something that was brought up. I do know that we want to stay focused at the 152 officers that we need to feel like would be fully staffed.
So what is the change? What is the budget change for them this year, or is there one?
There is a budget. We have a fairly significant. They had a 4% increase, and we're working on an additional 2% with our pay for improvement performance. We're still working with them currently. I do know that was one of the things that Chris had wanted to look at, was how we could put in some pay performance measures in there. So we are looking to roll that out in this year's budget. And I think it goes along with all the things that we're doing in surveying, trying to get more employees engaged, trying to certainly find a way to recognize those employees who take an interest in part and getting engaged and provide good quality service. That's what we want to do for our citizens. Yes, Jeremy.
The mission and values that's on the council's agenda today. Can you talk a little bit about that? And am I misremembering that? Or are we all going to have a secondary workshop and public input phase on that before council saw that again?
Well, I think we tried to put it out and ask for public input on there. I mean, we can certainly have some kind of, and we'll talk with council tonight about it. But if we want, I mean, the idea was what we were trying to do on that when we had the comments in the first meeting. We wanted a chance for staff to review it, and we did want some of the public comment that attended. I mean, we certainly can go for more. I think one of the challenges is people who want to weigh in on that, typically have already done so. We're welcome to hold a public meeting on it, but I don't know how many other individuals will come. We'll listen tonight. If there are other individuals that want to talk about it, we'll evaluate. But I do think it kind of came down to what we talked about. I felt really good about it. I think it gave the values that we thought were consistent with what we wanted to do, and then gave us some direction in making sure everybody on the team knew what we were trying to deliver, good quality service for the best for our citizens. So again, this is one of the things that was asked that thought we needed to have, and I agree. And I think we've kind of let it circulate around. But if there's a desire to get out there and have some more time with it, we'll look for anything that happens and look forward to tonight and Thursday. And if we feel like we haven't gotten enough of that, we'll certainly take a look.
So when you say circulate around, you mean like around staff, or?
We circulated around staff. It certainly was out there with the individuals who showed up. That came to the meeting that day. But again, if there's something else we need to do, we can put it out there and discuss a little further. Chris?
I mean, we posted it on the website, asked for comment, we sent it to staff, we got comment. I think I raised it at the council meeting last month and asked for more feedback. And this is just the beginning step in strategic planning. So there's more work to be done. The more interesting part of it is how you prepare your action items. So what do you have to do in order to meet these goals? And so that work will take place over the next few months, and that will come back to council for more discussion. So it's a long process, and this is just kind of the initial phase. And I think council asked for it to come back at this meeting, kind of endorse what we've got, and then we can, as a staff, go forward and fill in the meaty part of the plan.
Again, much of that it's always going to be a work in progress as we continue through it. So I don't think there's ever one we're done, but at least it sets something forward we can all begin to work with.
You were talking about the budget and pay disparities. What are some of the areas in which you're adjusting up? I assume nobody's adjusting down, but you tell me if that's not true.
Well, we've tried to add again a little bit more, an opportunity for there to be a pay raise, but then also to really put in a sort of more of a performance-based pay that really connects back to evaluations, point systems, some of the things we're doing and what we've talked about in doing the employee engagement survey, and how do we begin to recognize employees who are wanting to be engaged and are making things better for our citizens. So I think that was one of the ideas that we tried to put forward. So there's an opportunity for individuals to see a 4% increase if they're certainly meeting and exceeding goals that we set for them. So again, somehow tying the goals of what they're doing, the goals of where we're wanting to go, and what we're wanting to create within a system for the city and a direction for a mission, tying that to what we're doing and beginning to move forward. And certainly, these are certainly things that have been happening in the private sector for a long time. Public sector is a little bit slower, but there's no reason we cannot find, what we're trying to deliver is good quality service. The best is what it says in the mission to our citizens for what they get. So the goal and objective is that we should try to recognize those individuals who provide good service, and that's what we're trying to do every day, whether it's in sanitation, whether it's in Parks and Rec or Public Works. Our goal, police, fire, our goal is to provide good customer service to our citizens.
So what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're trying to implement a across-the-board performance-based opportunity for employees to earn as much as 4% as a bonus.
Correct. I think there's a 2% is there, and then 2% is for the is for what they can get on a bonus part that would be based on their performance.
So we had Evergreen Solutions come in, which is a pay plan consultant. They did a study for the county, so we have fresh data on looking at all of our positions and how they compared. And their recommendation is we were overall about 4% out of market in terms of our salary structure. Now there are individual pockets you asked, like where were some of the issues, so we found we had issues, and in diesel mechanics we had a very difficult time recruiting and maintaining our fleet operations. They looked at some of the dispatch functions in PD. There were pockets of where we were more than 4%, so we're having to address that. The recommendation to council and the mayor was the 4% market adjustment to get our pay plan based on the Evergreen study where it needed to be, and then the 2% is the pay for performance. Up to, it's either 0, 1, or 2.
Okay, so the 4% is an average, some are more, some are less.
Correct.
The 2% is the bonus incentive.
It's the bonus, it's a merit.
Merit.
Two different things.
I guess we can't give bonuses, but we can provide merit-based, and so our whole goal has been how do we tie the objectives that we want to create out of the mission, and begin to tie that to what do we want to see people doing, and figure out a way to do that. So I think it's also helpful to our employees. It kind of gives them a roadmap to say, okay, this is what we need to do, and if we do this, we provide good service. The organization recognizes that. So that's what we're trying to do. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the historic structure demolition rules that council's going to be looking at there?
Again, I think the idea was in a lot of our historic districts we have rules, but there are certainly areas that are historic in our community that do not fall within one of those zones. This was an attempt to make sure that all of those structures had an opportunity. So the idea is that those structures get looked at, and that you have to apply for a permit so that there can be some evaluation of it by staff to look at it and confirm that there isn't anything of historic or significant structure in there, and to be able to go forward. So it gives some kind of time for us to look at it and evaluate what's there and whether this is a structure that's worth saving. I do think there are going to be a few challenges. I know that the position sets up at 50 years. There is certainly, I think, on the southern end of our community, there is a wealth of history and stuff that's worth keeping as we move forward. I think as we jump across Bayou Tahar and we go north, we're actually approaching 50 years of development in some of those areas, and I think there will be some question as to, okay, what does this mean for my single-family ranch that was built in the 1960s? It's now approaching 50 years old, and I don't believe it's an historic structure, and I don't know that we would think it was a historic structure, but again, I do think there's probably going to be some conversation about that, but I think what we all generally think of as historic structures that we want to save, certainly those, and in the downtown area, with those in North Hill on our west side of our community, and East Hill, I think those are kind of what we think of as areas where we want to save that characteristic and try to save any of the buildings that we have that potentially have historic value for our community. So we are wanting to do that, but I do think there will be some debate in some of those areas, because I agree, the 50-year thing, it still kind of is one of those that kind of hits me, because I grew up in an area of town that's just now becoming 50 years old, and I certainly, while they seem historic and of value to me, I'm not sure how much historic value they are to the overall community, so I do think there's going to be some discussion about some of those areas as we go forward. But the intent is clearly to protect those things that we think do provide some historic characterization of those neighborhoods that certainly, go back 100 plus years in this community, and we've seen some of those things happen, especially as we look at what's happening in the downtown market, in those areas, those neighborhoods that kind of are adjacent and surround the downtown and CRA area.
So to follow up on that, the 50 is not meant to be nothing over 50. The 50 is meant to be the question mark. That's where
Correct.
You're kind of looking, assuming that a lot of things that might be over 50 are going to go fine, but...
Correct. But, I mean, again, I don't know I don't sit on the council, so I don't know the discussion and debate, but I do know, at least in talking to some council members, that there is a concern that 50, especially those council members that represent areas that aren't kind of in the more historic core, that they're a little bit concerned about numbers. So I think there will be some debate over how that's applied. But again, I think we're all pretty clear. I mean, you have a single-family ranch in Cordova Park or Scenic Heights. I don't think that's what we're really looking at. If you wanted to redevelop a site there, that's not what we're so much intending to look at. Although there are certainly some structures. I know there's the Frank Lloyd Wright, or the one that's in Cordova Park. So I mean, there are some historic structures that are there. It'd be interesting to find out. Certainly the old Bars estate that Mayor Wibbs lived in is one of those that would be kind of there in Cordova Park. But for the most part, I don't know that there's many significantly historic structures there. And so I think as the application goes, I think there may be some debate tonight. But overall, I think in the core, I think everybody agrees that's where it's more applicable.
Would you be in favor of basing it geographically, instead of changing the 50 numbers, just
We've had that debate. I would tend to be more in favor of geographic, but I know we've had the discussion overall. It's hard to do, and I know there are historic lines when things were started at the 50-year. That will really be a discussion for tonight, but I do think there are probably some areas of our community that aren't quite as historic. But I guess the question becomes, as you move forward, what happens as we go forward. As I jokingly told, I think we meet a week before this. We met last week, and we were meeting with the council president. And I jokingly told him that we'll see that house that you live in. Now that you've lived there and been council president, it becomes historically significant. So, anyways, we'll see what happens tonight in that discussion.
The ATMS is on the agenda for tonight, and I'm not really clear how implemented remote traffic control is or isn't in the city. I know the county has some stuff like the Light of Vita Luna. Do we have any remote traffic operation?
We do. Some on state roads. We have a ring that participates both for state and county roads. State, city, and the county on state roads. So we would like to expand that ring. What I think we're doing right now is trying to address it at a TPO level so it can become a priority, and I think the West Florida Regional Planning Council can move forward with getting us state funding. And I think that's where we are at this particular time. We are one of the last significant metropolitan areas in Florida to obtain this, so this is kind of our chance to move forward on it. I think the city, the county, Santa Rosa County, and some of their municipalities as well have said this is something we all want to do. So let's put it together and endorse it and try to go from a TPO collectively all unified. So I think that's really what this is about, is trying to put a unified front at the TPO level where we have city, county, and also in Santa Rosa City, County support, and we're all moving forward together.
So that would be what, like Davis, Airport, Fairfield? What are the roads that are currently?
You have, I think the loop currently includes, I know it comes off of where the traffic center is there, so I think it's Brent, is it 9th, Davis, Airport possibly?
Yes, airport around the Fairfield.
Fairfield.
Yes.
And so,
Brent, Davis, Airport, and Fairfield.
correct, that's where the current ring is, but the whole ring would be Creighton, Cervantes, any of our roads that are state roads, even scenic highway. So everything would eventually, that was state driven, would connect into that ring. So right now we have a very small ring, but we'd like to grow it. I think 12th Avenue also. So we would like to grow that ring more significantly to really include all state facilities. And not only,
So it would still be state roads. It wouldn't still be all the lights. It would just be state roads.
it would be state road lights, but then once we have that set up, it would provide us an easier way to connect. I mean, there aren't that many traffic signals on city roads. It's the ones we've got down here or in other, most every road that we have a traffic signal on, especially as you get out of the downtown core, becomes much more of associated with a state road. So many of our lights would be included in that. And I think the ones that aren't, we've really worked at trying to figure out ways to manage those areas. But the place where we're having the largest problems are on state-related roads, both within the city and within the county.
Gardens, Cervantes.
Yeah. That would be 2 state roads again. So again, these are the problems we have more is on these state roads. I'm not saying that we don't have them on city, but if we get the state ones taken care of, I think it'd be easy for us to integrate the city into it. And I do think I want to compliment Derek and his team, because I had the opportunity to go out for a work day with them and the fiber and Mick Voda. They're significantly ahead of where we are, where we were when I was at the county. And so the fiber is there, the other things are there at the city, and we just need an overall system to connect into it. So I'm confident we can get city lights to coordinate if we can get a ring for the state roads. So I think that's the first step.
As we're going into the Cervantes workshops, this is kind of a rewind, because I think we talked about this a couple 3 weeks ago. With the timeline and the money that was vetoed by the governor, even though it was a county request, but what might have happened that's not going to happen now? Are we just looking at 2021 no matter what to get some improvements going?
Well, my understanding was that the money that was set aside in the budget this year was to look at the diet. So what we will be looking at and what is there is the money for the improvements. That means what will still be there is a 4-lane road. What the money that was trying to be that was being asked for was going to look at the diet to take it down to 2-lane, and it was a study that had to be done. There may still be opportunities through the TPO to find money for that study. I don't know. I haven't talked to Austin Mount at West Florida Regional Planning Council or anyone else. Since I don't serve on the TPO as much anymore, I don't tend to follow that. If there may be some additional money to follow that study. But I do know it is something that we were looking for, and I know at least when I talked to DOT at one time, they felt like if somehow that wasn't budgeted, there would still be an opportunity if that was a priority for this TPO in this area that study could still be done, funded through a different mechanism within DOT budget. Again, at this particular time, I think the more important part of the improvements that you talked about are going to happen. I don't want to lose focus on that. The money that was cut is not going to touch the improvements. The money that was looked to be appropriated was simply for the diet. And I'm not even saying that as we move forward, the city and the county may find ways for the TPO to fund that. But at this point, we're going to get the work done. So that does start this summer. There's going to be the first one is going to be in the county at the Brownsville Community Center, and then we will have one at Fricker Community Center later on this in a couple months. And I think in August, is it coming up? We'll have one in August at Fricker Center, and so then we'll have the opportunity between those two to begin to figure out what are the improvements, and for our citizens to have some say on what those improvements are. The idea is certainly like a median that will give protection for the citizens as they cross, potentially some pedestrian accentuated crossings in that area, narrower lanes, all those things is what we're looking at in that Cervantes corridor. So, I've talked with DOT when they were here. The money for that is already there, so those things will happen. We got to go through a public input process, and if you live in that area, or you travel that area, or you're worried about that area, we hope you will participate in those. And again, one's in the county, one's in the city, and we hope we'll be able to get your input. And from there, they'll do a design, and they'll start construction very shortly after that.
So just to clarify, so medians and crosswalks is funded, but the design is still pending public input. Road diet is pending funding.
Road diet is pending funding. Everything else is correct. You're exactly right. The other improvements are simply pending the public involvement.
And that's August 13th from 2 to 4 at Fricker.
Thank you.
And then the other one's tomorrow
Okay.
at 5:30.
Switching gears, Mr. Mayor, what for Northwest Florida, City of Pensacola, what kind of relation have you been able to build with the new governor? Have you had a chance to really interact with him since he's been in office?
I went over there. We had an opportunity to meet with him, but that's about it. It was our goal and objective to try to get him over here sometime summer, fall, to try to see what's going on. We've been talking with a few other entities that depend on state funding, both education, healthcare, governments ourselves in Escambia County, and some other businesses, and trying to see about getting him over here to come meet and just see what's going on in Pensacola. So we are working on that. I went on vacation and we hadn't picked that back up. Casey and I were discussing some stuff we wanted to do beforehand, and I just haven't had the chance to pick it back up. But we'd love for him to come over here. I mean, we'd love to have a day to show him what goes on in Northwest Florida and how important we believe Northwest Florida is to the state of Florida, and the opportunity as we move forward. We think there's growth opportunity here. There's quality of life opportunity, and we want to show the governor what we can do here. So that's kind of where we are at this point. But aside from just having some preliminary meetings with him, haven't really had much of a time to sit down with him and discuss as we move forward. So we're trying to develop that relationship like everything else. It takes time in going over there, and that's what we want to do. And certainly it's always hectic at session, but now's the time when you can make hay while they're not in session, and trying to find ways to set up for next year's session. Donnie.
Yes, there's a grant workshop that's advertised as being co-sponsored by the city coming up next week. Do you have many city employees who will be attending it, since we constantly hear how we need grant writers?
4. Keith says we have 4. We have 4 that will be attending.
Yeah, those are free, whereas it's a for-profit actual conference and workshop, but they give us 4 free seats for our sponsorship.
Okay, for our sponsorship, the City of Pensacola will get 4 free slots to attend that, so we will have 4 individuals there. Are there anything else? Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a good week.